Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Tropics Talk. It's been a little while. I was on vacation, some sort of scheduling notes there. It was a good week for me to be away because there wasn't much that happened out there. Since Elsa fell apart over a week ago, the Atlantic has been awfully quiet, and it remains awfully quiet here this morning. You look at the satellite presentation across the entirety of the Atlantic Ocean. I see one little swirl, an on-tropical low to the south and west of Bermuda. A frontal boundary moving off the east coast of the United States, some pretty typical thunderstorm activity over South America, and a couple of waves off the coast of Africa, but you can even see from this far out the convection with that falling apart this morning. A sign that things are pretty stable out there in the Atlantic Basin. Big part of the reason why there's a whole lot of Saharan dust. It's really two plumes of dust you can track right now, one stretching from about the midway point between Africa and the Caribbean to Puerto Rico and Hispaniola, and then a second burst of dust just about to make its way offshore. In fact, pretty interesting to see. Where do you find the thunderstorm activity, the convection in the main development region here this morning? On the southern fringes of that, just north of the South American coast, and then on the southern fringes of that dust off the coast of Africa. It doesn't go as far north as the Cabo Verde Islands right now. So that dust really going to help to keep a lid on things. First plume moves its way across the Caribbean, and then a second wave of dust, like I said, just moving off the coast now. That also sort of fills in behind that. Now, you do see things waning a little bit by the time we get to the end of the week, but there will still be more where that came from to help keep things pretty quiet going forward here, too. And along with that, a whole lot of wind shear. Your little trough of low pressure that typically sets up this time of year still in place across the Bahamas up towards Bermuda. You see that with the diving winds across the Caribbean. That helping to keep that shear high across the Caribbean Sea, high shear into the eastern Atlantic as well. Gulf of Mexico pretty quiet right now, but nothing going there all the same. So with all that said, no development expected for at least the next 5 days. It could be longer than that too. This is the European forecast model. This is looking at next week. The chances for even a tropical depression to be out there, and just really has nothing that it's really keying in on. Yeah, low probabilities, but you pretty much typically always see that this time of year with the simple thunderstorms that are going on right along the convergence zone from the Lesser Antilles to the coast of Africa. So, yeah, looking very, very quiet. And no surprise, one thing we look at during hurricane season is something called the MJO, or Madden-Julian Oscillation. Basically, it gets complicated here, but we're talking about a long wavelength wave pattern that goes across the globe. And when you're in the more active phase, or in sort of the peak of the wave, you're seeing more upward motion in the atmosphere, and it tends to spark tropical systems this time of year when you're in the sort of wrong phase of it in your basin. And then when you're in the sort of dip or trough in the wave, you are seeing more sinking motion and things are a little more stable. So when you look at how things have trended going back through the last month or so, the purple line is June, the red line is July. Think back, the last couple weeks of June were very active in the Atlantic, and no surprise, we were in sort of phase one of that MJO. You see, you go from 12 to 27, 28 in that phase one. That's when that sort of crest in the wave is focused on the Atlantic's main development region and the coast of Africa. Really ramped up the monsoon there and brought out a couple of systems, including Elsa, which formed as an early season African easterly wave. And now, as we progressed our way into July, we moved more into phase 2, phase 3, even into phase 4 now, which tends to favor more convection going on the Indian Ocean, and now out towards what they consider the maritime continent here. That would be Australia, Indonesia, Thailand, those areas. So you can see how things have progressed. This is looking at the forecast going forward here. And each is an individual week. So the first time step you see here is this week. The last time step goes all the way out into the final week of August. And note where you have the brown, that's sort of that sinking motion, and we're very much locked in that now. What this is doing is it's taking that wave and just propagating it forward across the globe. So timing-wise, how long can we expect this sort of low to continue? If you just go by the MJO and you propagate the current wave out there and don't really bring much in the way of change into things, we keep our quiet pattern in place through the end of July at the very least, even into the first 2 weeks of August. it's still showing things being pretty quiet. But as you work through the first, second, and third weeks of August, now we're starting to see the activity pick up. We're starting to see it getting back to that sort of phase 8, phase 1 that we look for in the Atlantic for more activity. So as far as the question, how long will we keep things quiet in the Atlantic? I think we're looking good at least through the end of the month and even into the first week or two of August. After that, by mid to late August, things should start to pick back up, which follows pretty closely with climatology too. You expect to see the Atlantic increasing in activity as we go into the second, third week. So don't be lulled in necessarily a false sense of security that, maybe this will be a quiet season going forward. No, I do think overall, as we've talked about at length here, the Atlantic will still be primed for quite a bit of activity. And if that MJO is any indication, by mid-August, we'll be back off to the races. So enjoy the quiet while it lasts. It's here with us now, likely continues through at least the end of the month, but we'll still be keeping an eye on things all the same, especially as we head into the peak of hurricane season next month and into September. I'll be back with another update at the end of the week. If all indications are correct, it'll still be one that says things are pretty quiet out there in the Atlantic. Until next time, I'm meteorologist Jim Dickey. Have a good one.